Hello and welcome to another live stream from the Permaculture podcast. Today I am sitting down to look at a couple of books that have recently come onto my radar and into my collection that I wanted to share with you. One of those things about permaculture and everything that we do is there are so many amazing authors writing about this subject, working in these spaces, and continuing to develop just all this great stuff for us. And unless you spend a lot of time in this space working on this material like I do, a lot of it can kind of be missed or potentially fall off your radar. Next up, we have the Permaculture Design Notes from Delvin Solkinson, Grace Solkinson, Kimchi, Tamara Griffiths, Annalise Hordern, and Dana Wilson. Several years ago, I read an earlier version of this book and wrote a blurb for it, and really like that book as a way to expand our understanding of permaculture and as a good companion to some of the earlier materials that are so core and fundamental to our permaculture practices, like Permaculture Designer's Manual or David Holmgren's Permaculture Principles and Pathways Beyond Sustainability. And so with that kind of view of this earlier, less detailed version of the Permaculture Design Notes, when I heard that Delvin and the team were kickstarting a new version, I immediately backed the project. And if you don't know Delvin, he was on the show last year, I think it was, to talk about how he's been exploring permaculture through the offerings of various teachers for well over a decade. In this time, he's traveled all over the world, taking permaculture design course after permaculture design course, enrolling in various advanced trainings as they were available, as well as pursuing several permaculture diplomas to sit down with as many permaculture teachers and organizations as possible to collect their shared wisdom. And I've got a physical copy of this here. Like, this is a big book. I mean, you can see this is quite a tome that Delvin put together, and it's just absolutely amazing how much is in here. It's 450 pages of content just covering the gamut of permaculture education. And so, like, working with a variety of other authors, Delvin and the team break the spectrum of permaculture education into three main sections: a permaculture design course curriculum, a series of practical skills, and then insights and ideas on how to teach permaculture more practically when it comes to like the advice of different permaculture teachers on creating a pedagogy of your own, which was something that I experienced in my teacher training many years ago when I went to Cottage Grove, Oregon, and studied with Jude Hobbs and Rico Zook and Andrew Millison. A large portion of that class was their recommendations on how you put a permaculture course together, from organizing it and how to fund it to what you would actually teach in the class and how to teach it. And so you have all of that kind of information here in the Permaculture Designer's Notes. And all of these like dozens and dozens of lessons within each of these sections with the insights and observations from all of these different authors. Jude Hobbs, who I studied with, is in here. Rosemary Morrow, who wrote The Earth User's Guide to Permaculture, which is one of the books that I highly recommend and is the book that I actually teach from when I teach a PDC. Earth User's Guide to Permaculture and David Holmgren's Principles and Pathways Beyond Sustainability are the books that are included in my students' curriculum and that I work from. Hey, Daring Danielle, thanks for hopping in and joining me this afternoon. But yeah, it's a fantastic book, and I think that the way that the information is shared kind of in this straightforward, easy to bring together method. I didn't change my slide. I've been talking about this book the entire time. The beauty of doing it live. But you have all of these, like, looking at cool climate species. We have all these different plants of interest and why they're of interest, and That continues over here. We have a little quote from Frank Lloyd Wright that ties it all together. It's absolutely that's some sketches of all the different authors who came into this. And each of these are kind of put together. Like, here are some different things that we might consider when it comes to our class culture and creating a learning environment. As we have conversations about consent and what it means for us to have agreements when it comes to education and what we're doing as teachers, and understanding what the role of authority is in a classroom setting, even as we might engage in things like Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed. It's been a while since I've read that. I apologize if I got it wrong. But even as much as we may try to democratize the classroom, there is still kind of a position of authority that a teacher is in. And I've had conversations with some of my colleagues on what goes into creating a safe environment. And those kinds of ideas are in here. And it's a fabulous book that can provide all kinds of insights and ideas into where to take one's permaculture education. Danielle, as you're saying, you haven't taken a PDC. This book can guide a lot of where you might proceed with your personal education if you just want to do it on your own. I think that this is a good book of interest to every permaculture practitioner. But if you're someone who is teaching permaculture, who would like to teach permaculture, this is something that I think that everyone should have in their kit. It's just a great book for all of these ideas, and the way that everything is presented. 1 or 2 or 3 pages of information on, one really narrowly focused idea, and lists and quotes and all of this makes it really easy for you to take what's there and remix it and apply it to your life exactly where you are, however you need to do it. Whatever you're working on. I could sit here right now and probably open one of these pages, read through it for a few minutes, and be able to do a live lesson right here with you. The information is that useful. I don't think that it stands alone on its own without some other support material, but it is fantastic for helping one put together a curriculum and to teach permaculture, both as a PDC and what you might follow up with if you wanted to create your own teacher training, or if you wanted to offer a series of classes and workshops on practical skills within the realm of permaculture. As with the Earth Care, People Care, and Fair Share in Education, the Permaculture Design Notes is another book that you can read online and decide if it's a good fit for you before ordering a copy of your own. You'll find Permaculture Design Notes at permaculturedesign.earth.